Hi, my name is Isra.
And my name is Rakib.
Today we'll be walking you through the CSS profile and how to fill it out. I'm sure you've all had some experience with College Board, and this, as you know, is the home page. So the first thing that you would do would be to log in. After you log in, what you would do is scroll down. Hold on one second. Yep. Scroll down towards the bottom to find
the Student Tools section.
In the Student Tools section, the CSS Financial Aid Profile button. Once you click on that, it'll take you to the home page of the CSS Financial Aid Profile. Here it gives you the options whether to sign in for this year or the next year. If you guys are seniors and you're applying to go to school next fall or spring, that means if you want to start school in September or January of next year, what you would do is sign in to the 2015 or 2016. At this point, it'll ask you to re-enter your password. And you've reached the home page. Basically, this is where you begin your registration for the profile, and this is where you'll be filling it out. So before you actually go into filling out the CSS profile, the first thing that we want you to do is actually click on this link that says click here before you begin, so that you can read the instructions on exactly how to fill out the CSS profile. It gives you specific step-by-step instructions on the specific sections that you have to fill out. So make sure that you read through this, make sure that you understand all of the parts before you go into filling out the CSS profile. It has very detailed descriptions of the sections, so you'll be able to understand what you're filling out before you actually do it. It also has a specific section for international applicants, and because that refers to you, I really suggest that you read through this part very carefully. Also, at the top, it lets you select a section that you can select, so you can get more information on it. Alright. So afterwards, you can click here to register for the profile, and it'll take you to the actual CSS profile, which we'll be going through now.
Okay, so this is what the CSS profile is going to look like after you've selected beginning. So the first section you're going to find is the parents data, or the PD section. This just asks for you have to select the currency in which you're going to complete the CSS profile. For in your case, it's going to be the Ethiopian birr, so make sure that you select Ethiopian birr next to this question. After that, you're going to be asked to fill out both of your parents' data. So there's the section that says parent 1 and parent 2. It doesn't matter how you fill it out. You can have your mother come first or your father, doesn't matter. Just make sure that you write your father's name and then you select that person is your father. After that, you have to answer respective questions for that person, such as their date of birth, their occupation, their employer, and the number of years they've been employed or they've been in that current position, and the highest level of education completed. You will fill this out for your parents or your stepfather, stepmother, or any other legal guardian. Yeah, so after that you will move on to the parents' household information.
This is a section where you have to fill out all the information that they ask you about your specific household. The first question is basically how many people live with your parents and are financially dependent. That means how many people in your household are basically have all their needs met for by your parent. And in this case, you can see that it says always include yourself. So when you're entering any responses in the CSS profile, it's going to be a numeric response. That means you're entering a number, so you're not writing down a sentence or you're not writing down words, you're always entering a number. So here when it asks you to enter the number of people who live with your parents and say you're the only child, if for example you're the only child and in a house with 2 parents, then you would enter 1 as an answer here. So the response here should never be 0. But in most cases where this question the question doesn't apply to you, or basically the question's answer is 0, you would fill in 0. The second question was obviously how many people in your parents' household will be university level students. It says here to not include your parents, so if you have brothers or sisters that are going to be university students, then you will include that number here, and you'll include you'll answer your parents' email address in the next section as well.
Okay, so the next section is the parents' income and benefits section. This is where you will provide a lot of data regarding what your parents' like salary is, or how much they pay for taxes. So the first question is it's to enter the amount your parents pay for all taxes and mandatory withholdings and the like. So just make sure that this applies, like some of the parameters here stated apply to you. For instance, if you don't have mandatory withholdings or set-asides or anything like that, then you disregard that and you just add what your parents pay for tax. The other one, it's to enter the income parent 1 or your mom or your dad earned or expect to earn from work during his or her most recent tax year. So you need to fill out their salary in the previous year and the salary that they're getting this year.
So all this information you should actually be getting from your parents, and also from the document that you received from their employer. I think we've spoken about that before, that you need to get a letter from your parents' employer and your parents' bank. So that's a bank statement and an employer statement. So you use these 2 statements to fill out some of the information throughout the CSS profile. What you're seeing now, what we're working through here, this document is actually a PDF version of the form online. So this PDF version is very useful, and we'll actually send it out to you, because you'll be able to print this out, take this home, and fill it out with a pen, and talk to your parents through all the questions, fill out all the answers in pen, and then go to an internet cafe or anywhere you have internet access and actually fill out the answers online. For this section that you see that we're talking about now, the question for parents' income and benefits, most of the answers that you'll fill in here you'll answer in consultation with your parents, so you have to talk to your parents throughout this whole process and through the employer statements. The next section is actually the parents' prior year income and benefits. This section is very similar to the previous section, except it's asking for your parents' income and benefits of the year before. So you use your past year's income and benefits to fill this one out. I know most of your parents, if they have steady incomes, then this is basically going to be the same as the section above. So the answers in here are going to be very similar. However, if your parents change jobs from last year to this year, then some of the answers here might be different. The section after this is actually parents' expected income, and this one, the parents' expected income and benefits, and this one is going to be the expected income for next year. So again, those 3 sections are the current income and benefits is the first section you'd have to fill out. The second section is last year's income and benefits, and the third section is next year's. So these answers might be very similar to each other, or if your parents change jobs halfway through, then they might be different. So make sure you keep communicating with your parents.
The next section is the parents' assets section. So here you're asked if they have any checking accounts or savings accounts, which is the first question. So you basically put down what is found on your bank statement. Also you state what your parents may possess, such as houses or anything like that, or businesses or property or retirement plans or real estate or anything that you think of. So there are special bars for this: trust funds, stocks, stock options, which don't really apply, money market funds, certificate of deposit, blah blah blah. Just what you have to make sure is you have to discuss with your parents which one of these apply to you, so, and then put down the monetary amount.
If none of these, if you feel like none of these apply to you, remember to not leave the answers blank. Make sure you write 0 in the answers, so never leave anything blank. And for example, in the section that says stock and stock options, if your parents don't invest in stocks or bonds, then you should not leave this question blank, just put 0. The next question is actually parents' expenses. Again, we cannot stress enough how important it is to be in constant communication with your parents as you're filling out this profile. This parents' expenses section is actually quite specific and maybe a little difficult to come up with specific answers. For example, the first question asks for the amount of medical and dental expenses that your parents paid or expect to pay in whichever year. This form itself is actually outdated, so don't pay attention to the years, but the questions are actually very similar. So for example, in this first question, when it asks you to enter your medical and dental expenses, make sure you communicate with your parents and come up with a good estimate of what would be a yearly expense for medical treatments in your household. Again, all the questions referring to educational fees, home mortgage payments, some of these may not apply, and if they don't apply, put 0 in it. But the rest that do apply, make sure you communicate with your parents and come up with a good estimate as to how much money you're basically they're budgeting into these different categories.
Another thing that's important on this section is make sure that whatever amount you assign to every section adds up and is less than the amount that you put as their salary. You cannot enter more money. You cannot be spending more money than you're getting, or you cannot be spending equal amounts of money than you're getting. So make sure that it's less, because you do have savings, and make sure it all adds up properly. So
these all these questions are quite specific, and make sure that you again communicate with your parents. If they don't apply, make sure that you enter 0 as an answer.
But you don't need to worry too much, because you don't need to have exact numbers. You can just estimate how much you spend on a specific section. So don't worry too much about having documentation that shows that you've spent that much on that specific thing. Just make it a close enough estimate.
That's true. The next section is students' data.
Yeah, students' data. So this is what basically this is going to be about you. This is probably going to be the easiest section. You're going to enter the name of the school or college you attend. For you, it's going to be school. So just put down your school's name, and just also list down what grade you're in, which is the second question. It asks you a question if you have scholarships or grants to your school. If this applies, write that down. If it doesn't, 0. Your country of citizenship, you just write that down too. Ethiopian, I suspect. The type of visa you expect to get is an F1 visa. This is very important. You are applying for an F1 visa. What else? And also, are you or have you ever been upward bound participant? This does not apply to any of you, so the answer to that is no.
The next section is students' income and benefits. So for most Ethiopian students, this would not apply, because most of us do not have basically steady income jobs. So if some of these questions do not apply, just make sure you enter 0. But make sure you completely answer all the questions. So this section is basically asking how much money you would earn if you were working, and if you're not working, just enter 0 in the questions that apply. Students' assets is very similar.
But most of you would not have any assets because you don't have steady jobs. So most of these sections do not apply to Ethiopian students. The next section we'll be discussing will be the family member listing. So this is an extension of the answer you provided in the previous section, in which you stated how many people are dependent on your parents. So first you list the full name of the family member, and you write the relation to you, and you write the age, and you do the same thing to everyone that's dependent on your parents. So after that, you write if they are in a public university or a private university or whatever, or how much your parents are actually paying for that person. So this is for family member number 1, and then you do this for family member 2, and so on. If you don't have enough space on the CSS, you just add this information on the additional information section, which will come up at the end of this form.
So yes, this next part, as she explained, is the explanations and special circumstances section. And in this section, you will include any additional information that you want the colleges to know about your financial situation that wasn't adequately expressed throughout the profile. So if there's anything additional that you want to explain, if somehow the numbers don't add up, or as Azrake previously explained, if somehow your parents' expenses are more than your income, that would generally not make sense, because you're basically saying that my parents spend more than they make. So for special situations like that, you may want to explain your financial situation, and this special circumstances page is basically where you would do it. The next section is supplemental questions.
So this section contains additional questions required by one or more of your college and programs. So the first question says, if your parents own real estate other than their home, enter the number of properties that they own. So this is just, you have to state how much your parents have aside from your house, and then you have to report and provide the year of purchase, blah blah blah, for your house, and just basically follow the instructions on these. But most of them would not be applicable until you get to the point of the motor vehicles that you own. If you own any cars, just list how many cars you own and the amount of money you pay to have the cars for the maintenance of the cars. And
so the important thing to remember in this section is that these supplemental questions are additional questions that your colleges that you're applying to would want to ask you. So aside from the CSS profile, you'll be entering the list of colleges you want to send the CSS profile to, and it automatically fills in questions from those colleges. For example, if you're applying to Columbia University has its own set of questions that it wants to ask you aside from the CSS profile, and this section of supplemental questions is where they would put those questions. So this can be different based on which colleges you're applying to, and this could differ from one person to another. So make sure you go through the questions, try to understand completely what they're asking you, and fill in the answers. So this is basically the end of the CSS profile. I know we went a little fast, but again, this profile has very specific questions that you should read through and try to understand to the best of your abilities. If you have any questions on any of the specific information that they're asking you, please feel free to contact your mentor. This is exactly the type of situation where they would be the most helpful. Try to go through the entire CSS profile by yourself and be in communication with your parents. Take this home, fill it out, and if you have any specific questions about some of the things that they're asking you, email them to your mentors, and we'll be able to help you to the best of our abilities. So thank you for watching. Bye.